What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Virzi Effect Podcast show. My name is Paul Virzi, and you guys listening to episode, what is this, 481. Wow. 481, but wow. I don't know what number it is during the pandemic when I got it to video. But guys, my guest who's on the show today is somebody that I wanted on the show for a long time. I'd run into him at the cellar. I'd see him at the stand, all these different comedy clubs. I'd see him. We would talk sports, New York comic, so much in common because there's some Westchester connection. Yeah. You guys know him from his hilarious stand-up, his performances on a cast member of Saturday Night Live. The one and only, the hilarious Dean Edwards is on the Virzi Effect. Dean, thank you so much.
What up, man? Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. Good to see you, brother. We've made the connection finally.
So yeah,
I'm here.
I'll say at the beginning of the show, I have never wanted to see somebody on Zoom more than Dean, because we were supposed to start this a little while ago. Computer's out. There's a snowstorm blizzard. The charger on a computer usually takes 2-3 minutes, and this thing is just not going. Then I finally get it 25 minutes later, and then Zoom, we're having an issue. I'm calling my wife. I'm yelling. My kids are like, "What's the tension?" My wife is going, "Can you go get more logs of wood outside while I figure this out for you?" I got snow on my. Listen, the bottom line is,
I love that she put you to work while you were trying to do something. She's like, "We need wood."
That's my wife.
Go chop a tree down.
Yeah,
that's every wife.
Yes. My wife is like, if I'm going to help you with some computer stuff, there's an errand you're going to run for sure.
Right, of course.
So
there's always something, man.
Yeah, I want to talk about this right out of the gate, okay? Because this is, not only are you well deserving of this, but in my opinion, this is a way too long time coming. But that's what happens in this business.
Man.
My man Dean Edwards has a special dropping in 12 hours on Netflix. Okay. And this is Tiffany Haddish presents They Ready Season 2. Okay. There's a lot of great comedians on this, but this man crushed it. You guys will
Thank you, sir.
You guys will see it. Watch him. Dean is not only, you do something, Dean, that I really, and then I got to get into this story, but you do something that not a lot of impressionists do, which is dope stand-up. Because I've noticed something. A lot of impressionists, they use their impressions for the stand-up. Like they'll be like, okay, Eddie Murphy and Jay-Z walk into a Waffle House and do that. And of course, but then that's the whole thing where I've actually seen you tell stories about your wife and your children and actually do jokes. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh, he's got that in his back pocket too. And I always found that was, listen, not that just being an impressionist isn't impressive, but the way, because I think if you could do that, if that's your skill, but I think like the way Eddie Murphy, who both of us is like our heroes, he would just do stand up, but then all of a sudden, if a voice came in, you're like, oh my God, that was like spot on. He could do that too. And that's what you do.
Oh, thanks, man. You know what, for me, it to me is always about the funny first, because the impressions come so easily to me, Paul. And I've said this numerous times on numerous podcasts and platforms. I got into stand-up comedy to be a funny comedian. I got into this and I wanted to earn the respect, of my peers, and have other comics stand in the back of the room like, oh, like to me, the dopest feeling is if you just got off stage, say we're at the cellar and you just came off stage, and then I go on and then I see you standing in the back watching and laughing. I'm like, even though we're playing for the room, we're playing for the crowd. To me, that's the gold, because you've made someone that has seen any and everybody laugh, or someone that's achieved the highest levels of success in shooting your own special, touring with Burr and so forth, who I still call Billy. That's right. I'm saying Billy, baby. But, I think when you get the respect and admiration from your peers who do this, that's the ultimate, nod of approval. And coming up with Billy and Patrice and Todd Lynn, I wanted them to respect me as a stand-up, because and also as a fan of comedy. I just always I've never been two-sided. I've always appreciated someone that does amazing impression, but because I also do impressions, I always got frustrated, or always have become frustrated, because when people group me in and hit you with the but all you guys those impressions, and I'm like, nah. Most people know if I'm gigging in New York City, for years I wasn't doing impressions on stage in the city, just because I was like, people are expecting that. I wanted to hit them in the head with something differently. I don't like for people to prejudge and assume, oh well, he's a comedian, he's an impressionist. I'm like, no, I'm a comedian first. And I didn't, and I don't. I think it's also there's a hackiness to, man. What if Eddie Murphy? Because you always know where it's going, right? And comedy is about misdirect, but you can't misdirect if you say, what if Jay-Z and Eddie Murphy walked around the neighborhood shoveling snow? What would that be like? Because immediately to me, that's lazy, because you've given this lazy premise, which is really just a setup to say, and now some impressions. Right. And then it's usually gonna be, it's not even gonna be someone speaking in their natural voice. Is them doing an impression of Denzel from Training Day, where he's like, you don't wait. You mean to tell me that you don't have salt to pour down on the ground? King Kong, I'm putting cases on everybody that does, and so you're like, yeah. And the crowd rocks with it, but are they laughing, or are they impressed? Are they like, wow, that's really sounds like him? But I'm like, nah, I want you to laugh. And that's I think when people see my special on Netflix, I think they're gonna walk away like, yo, that was funny, because the scenario, I always utilize a real life scenario to ground it, to keep it grounded.
And I agree with that. It's almost like you don't want the clap and the laughing to be because, oh, he can do the voice. You want it to be because, oh, that whole piece was just brilliant, and that was a piece of stand-up. And I know what you mean about like, oh, all he does, you don't want anybody to say all he does is this, because something about me when I was coming up was, oh, well, he's a storyteller comic. And I'm like, no. So then that made me go, okay, well, watch this quick joke then. Like, I'll give you a quick joke, but I didn't grow up in the school. I didn't want to be the guy who was on the Tonight Show in a suit. I wanted to be Eddie Murphy Raw. I wanted to be George Carlin. I wanted to be those guys that just, yes, they could do a quick, silly thing. Even a silly dance or a dumb face.
That's what Carlin was dope. That's what I loved about Carlin. He'd hit you in the head with this long tirade and then end with
exactly
with a goofy face.
He'll give you like a quick little tiptoe dance, and you're like, but then he'll say something really profound, and like that's the type of comedian that I've always wanted to be. And so I wanted to tell this story because this is I got two stories of Dean Edwards stories.
I've been waiting to hear these.
So I was young. Well, you were, and just going back to what you said about our peers sitting in the back watching. That's big. I remember one time I was at Gotham, and I think this is when I started to make a little bit of noise in New York. Okay. And you came in, and I saw you go in the back, and you just, watched, and I came off, and I was doing some joke about a dog or something, and you liked it. But you always look at people that you respect. You've been doing it. I think you have been doing it maybe a little longer than I have. So when you see that, it feels good. But now you were when you got the SNL thing, and you were obviously more established. But one time I saw you out because I came up when I first got to New York City. I came up doing contests, and then I was doing black rooms. I was doing urban rooms.
Right,
So I
right.
remember I did one for Nadja Wright. You remember Nadja?
I do remember. Wow.
Now that's comedy
Wow.
she had.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she would use Kyle Grooms, and she would use John Laster and Mark Theobald and stuff. And I remember one time I did her first show at New York Comedy Club, and Naeem Lynn came up to me, and Naeem goes, and that's when Naeem, that's
you still had dreads.
That's dreadlock Naeem.
Yeah.
He had a notebook, going to school, like that was, and he
Right.
said, hey man, you're really funny. Why don't you come to this spot? And then that's kind of how it happened. And then he said, hey, there's a contest, the Steve Joyner show or something. There's a contest at Madison Square Garden, and I think you could win it for $1,000. Why don't you come tonight?
Oh, wow.
And I went. And that's
real quick. Can I just interject? That's, shout out to Naeem, because most cats, if they have a chance to win a G, are not saying to someone, yo, why don't you come get in this contest too and give me competition? So that's respect right there.
I gotta tell you, I told him that I was actually selling phone cable internet door to door in Queens at the time, knocking on people's doors, and I was selling phone cable internet for RC and high speed cable for, bundle it all up.
RCI,
and all that.
wow.
And I'm in a building, going upstairs with somebody trying to get another sales. And he said, Paul, he goes, there's a lot of, I'll never forget what he said to me. He said these words to me, Dean. I'm glad you brought that up. He said, there's a lot of haters in this game, and I'm not one of them. He goes, because I think you could win it. And
that's dope.
And it was for $1,000. And what would happen was, it was in the theater at the Garden. And what would happen is they would pull a name out of a bucket, so you didn't know if you were going to go.
Oh, so it was just a whim. You just hoped.
You submit your name, a little, and they put it in a bucket, and they had it up there. And J. Anthony Brown, watch out now. He hosted it.
Okay.
He hosted it. And I was waiting, and they called my name, and I went up, and I had a really good set. And here's a crazy story. You may remember this. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of dope. And I'm glad we could maybe recognize him. But you remember the late Sean McLean? Rest his soul.
Of course, dude. I every morning when I say my prayers and I'm grateful and meditate, Sean McLean and Uncle Jimmy, I take a moment to reflect on everybody we lost, and Sean McLean is one of them.
Again, another thing we have in common is all the time I pray for people that I knew that I lost all the time. Yeah. Sean and I weren't like cool like that, but like acquaintance cool. And Jimmy Mack, rest his soul, I never met him. But Sean McLean, I saw him I would watch TV, and Sean McLean would either be in like a Golden Gloves boxing. He would be like a Golden Gloves boxing match, or like a Mohegan Sun commercial.
Yeah. He's a working actor.
I saw him in the streets, and I was like, I see you everywhere. But this is true story. We're a bunch of comedians are sitting, waiting to go on. J. Anthony Brown is hosting it. The place is busy. I'm one of the only one or two of the white guys in this whole place.
And this is the Garden.
This is like, And Naeem called me up. He said, come down, winner gets $1,000 cash. I think you could win it. So I go. He goes, you got to submit your name. J. Anthony Brown calls my name. I go up. I have a great set. When I got off stage, J. Anthony Brown was fucking, but I got off stage, and J. Anthony Brown goes, man, he was funny though, wasn't he? He was funny. And the place clapped. And then he was joking. He was like, man, I ain't been that black in 10 years, he said. And, but he was busting everybody. One kid went up and was on a date and was bombed. And J. Anthony Brown did 10 minutes on, man, that's going to be a quiet car ride on the way. It was crazy. So I swear to God, this is the truth. And I'm so glad we could represent him like this. So they go, I don't know who won, man. Who do you think won this? And one dude yelled, that white boy who just went. And they said they're going to call 4 finalists, or that we're going to call finalists. And all of a sudden you hear behind the curtain some whispering and some rumbling. Sean McLean showed up late towards the end, and he literally was just going, he goes, guys, man, I'm funny. Can I just get a chance? I know the show's almost over. Can I just get a chance? So they basically said, man, this guy, he came in, he said he's funny. We're going to give him a chance. He went last. and he won the 1,000.
Of course he won it.
He came in, and they brought 4 of us up, and then by then 3 had gone after me, including him, and I knew the crowd had forgotten me. Like in my mind, I'm like, yo, I'm a finalist. I'm like, and they put the hand over, you know, and I got a nice response.
Yeah, the Kiki Shepherd. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when Sean did it, the place went nuts. He went last. He got the $1,000 and he won. But that's kind of how I started to meet a lot of people that me and you know, and doing know, certain rooms. But you at the time, now SNL had happened. You had the big fro. You had the big fro, right?
Yeah.
And
I just saw a picture too. I was like, yo, I was tripping. That was a lot of you had
my
wife. I was like, you let this happen?
You had a brown leather on, man. You had shell toes on a lot.
Okay.
I remember.
Yeah. I used to rock the shell toes.
You were a presence. And then I remember one time I went up to you, and this was right when I started to do those those contests and shows and stuff. And I was trying to get around the city and stuff. And you were in the back of the room once, and the only way that I could really get stage time at the time was if I would produce my own shows.
Right.
You know, like you and a friend. So like me, and there was this guy I used to be friends with. I don't talk to him anymore, Bill Scully. So we would like, hey man, New York Comedy Club, they're going to give us a Wednesday night at 8. So we got to fill the room. And I remember I went up to you one time, and this is the first story. And I go, hey man, and you know, because to me, money was different than what money was to you. Because of where you were in your career. It's just what it is.
Right.
And you were established. You were Saturday Night Live, which you should have been. But I remember I walked up to you and I go, hey man, I think it was in the back of the room at the Laugh Factory in Times Square. And I go, hey man, I was like, listen, we're doing this show. What would it like? Could you come down? Like, what would you charge like to come down? And I remember you go, be honest with you, go a cool G. You said cool. You said it'd be a cool. You said no. I'm sorry. You said it'd be a cool 1,000. And you did it in a way, not like a dick. Looking back now, what you did was you knew your worth, you were confident, and you had achieved something that if you do go to somebody's show that you don't know, that's the money that you should get. In my mind, I'm going, man, 1,000, like that's, you know, I can't afford that. And I was just like, all right, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I can't afford that, right? And I never held that again. Like I was never like,
right.
The way you did it, you go like a cool G. And now that, you know, when people are asking me stuff, just depending on like price, and I talk to my agent and stuff, and I'm going, Dean knew his worth, you know, and was just like, no, listen, man, I'm like, I did something. I've established myself. And what I love about it is so many comedians don't do that, Dean. So many comedians, not that it's maybe it's a self-worth thing, but so many people are just like, oh really, I could, because we're so used to crumbs,
wanting and needing,
we're
and
so
begging for stuff,
wanting and needing, and oh wow, I could go make $300, and it's like no, you were in the scene, you got on the biggest comedy show on NBC, you did all of these amazing things, and it's like no, it's going to be $1,000. And I remember going like, it was almost like I couldn't believe you said it, because I'm like, wow, that's feasible. Do you know what I mean? Like it was almost like oh my God. And now I see, and I'm going, man, this guy really knew and had it. And for a second I was like, oh man, like, is he arrogant? Or is he, and I'm going, no, man, like now I understand. I'm going, oh dude, this guy knew. And the second one was,
well, hold on. Let me just also say with regards to that, here's what the whole time you're telling us, I'm like, I hope I was a decent human being and I didn't expect that I wouldn't be. But what's funny about that story is I remember after, rest in peace, Todd Lynn, after we did Def Comedy Jam in 95, and Todd and I got cool and we started going on the road together. I remember, I think Todd said, he was like, hey man, he was like, listen, he was like, once you did a TV show, we can't leave New York for less than $500. He was like, that's the bare minimum that you have to get. He said, because if they're paying for a flight and they're paying for a hotel, you should at least earn what they're spending to get you there and keep you there, right?
Wow,
And
that's dope.
yeah, but I always I always believed in the artist's power to dictate and control what we do, because, like, as we were saying, we get so used to wanting to, like, for me, I wanted to be on a flyer, right? I wanted to be on a poster. I wanted to be able to make get one of those $25 spots and then $100 spots and so forth. I wanted an agent, I wanted a manager. And then once you get those things, once you're in it, as opposed to aspiring to it from the outside, once you're in the midst of it, you start to realize, oh, they work for me. I'm the show and they're the business part.
Yeah.
But um I need to at least make a certain amount. And his was like, I'm like 1,000 was probably low. But I probably had programmed myself to say, okay, at least if 6 years ago you had to get at least 500 after Def Jam, you're on SNL, so at least say 1,000, because also saying a certain dollar amount, it lets you know who's serious and who isn't, right? Who's really taking what you're doing seriously. Because a lot of people will, if I said, $200, not to you, but to someone else, they'd be like, "Oh, damn, I had 500 for him," right?
Yeah.
You ever had somebody respond too quickly? And like, yeah, what would it take? You're like, 1,000. Oh, perfect. You're like, wait, whoa, how much did you have?
Yeah. Oh, I could have got, yeah.
Right. So I'm like, saying 1,000, and then how I said it to you, when, like, the discomfort in saying it was, to be honest, because and that was sort of the buffer to say, listen, I know this is going to sound like a lot to you, because I know what you're trying to do, but I got to get at least this dollar amount, so that other people, if they happen to come to you and say, what, and that's not to say you would tell them honestly, but other people might. And other people, if you say to one person, he did it for 300, then the next cat can come and say, he did it for 300. Why are you trying to charge me?
Yeah.
When you only charge, you know what I mean? So it's like saying that Cool G was enough to say, all right, this is at least what I can get to leave my house and my wife and my newborn at the time.
And you know what? I love that you said that, Dean. And I think that that's 100% accurate. And I, obviously, me and my friend, whoever it was running that room that we were going to run, obviously didn't have that money. And you probably saw that, like, hey, this is a comic that's just asking me. If they are serious, great. But this is my bottom line, and other people need to know. And the last thing you said is how word gets out. I remember one time somebody hit me up and was like, yeah, I was gonna ask this comic. I told this one big comic. I told this one big. I said, "Why don't you just come to my show? It's my I'm an alumni there. Come to my college. I'm putting a bunch of comedians up. This guy's a big. I was gonna give this guy $3,000 for I'll give this guy $3,000 for 20 minutes." And the comic goes, "Nah, man, because then people are gonna think that's my price."
Right.
And it's what you said. It's like, no, it's like, you're gonna get me to leave wherever I'm at. And leave my house and leave my family and the travel. You can't have people. I can't have everybody thinking my price is $3,000 for 20 minutes, because I can go to a club and make 15,000, for that weekend. So, and you're 100% right. We got to maybe do a podcast together in the future.
Well, I'm with it, man. I'm with it.
No, because you understand. You understand. I'm not trying to pitch a show. That's hilarious.
No.
That'd be hilarious. Though, to be like,
creativity thrives, man. That's you like vibing and vibing with someone that you're cool with, and that you have when we were doing your other thing last week, and we realized how many things we went to the same movie theater when we were kids, and the same
what I was
comic
thinking,
book store,
and I was thinking about this for a second. It's funny that you said it'd be funny if everybody you clicked with, everybody had like 19, 20 podcasts. Yeah, well, we didn't look, but I'm booked. No, me and you, there's no doubt. I actually thought about this. Me and you, there's no way that we weren't in the same movie at Movieland before. Because I was at Movieland. I was at Movieland for Star Wars. I was at Movieland for those things. And that was your stomping ground too. And then you said the pizza place next door. We've definitely either walked by, which is crazy. Here's the second story of Dean Edwards. And this is a testament to you, my friend. The Wendy Williams comedy experience at the Laugh. It was. This is great. This is great.
I'm laughing because oh man, just to set the stage, Wendy Williams, before she was the worldwide phenomenon that she is. I mean, her Lifetime biopic just aired, and they had another hour special retrospective on her life and career. And before that, she was Wendy Williams, New York City's shock jock, radio. She from Hot 97 and then eventually BLS. She was and Angie Martinez. Angie Moore was like the voice of New York, but she was the nice person, right? Wendy was notorious for pissing off people because she always had her ear to the street. And what you appreciated about her was she was unfiltered and wasn't attempting to be friends with every guest that she had on her show, on her radio show. So then in the early to mid aughts, in the early 2000s, she wound up, the Laugh Factory in Times Square was actually at one point, I mean, they were what eventually the Cellar wound up mastering, with having the Fat Black and the Village Underground and the Comedy Cellar, having comedy in pretty much contained on one city block. The Laugh Factory, I think at their peak, what they have like 4 stages, because it was an old show world, right? It was an old strip club. And Wendy used to come in there, I think on Wednesday nights.
Yep, it was Wednesday night.
And it was really just a way, it was a way to flip her name and flip her opportunity and get a nice paycheck, because she could promote the show on the radio throughout the week. All in New York City would come out just to get a glimpse of her. She didn't really have to do much. She came on, but Capone hosted. And would show up while late.
Yeah. Yep. And you're 100% right. Everything he just said. Wednesday night, the marquee outside said Wendy Williams Comedy Experience. On Wednesdays, Capone hosted it. And I would go down, and I did it a couple of times. And one night, Capone, I do have to say this, Capone and Talent saw something in me and liked me early. And I have to give them a ton of credit, because when my confidence was down and I was insecure, I didn't know, they would laugh and then be like, no, and Capone, they treated me great, man. They treated me great. I have to say that.
Good dudes.
Capone is hosting. Wendy Williams is, she's sitting next to the stage where she stayed. Like there was a table like right over there.
Right.
And I mean, so many people were on this show. Smokey Suarez, everything, right?
Smokey,
so he goes, you're going to go, you're going to go here in the lineup or whatever. Right. So I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Smokey went before you and killed. And then, dude, you go on stage and you start just crushing. I mean, you are killing. And if this thing goes out, hold on, he could edit this out. If this thing goes out, we'll just restart it. But you are crushing. And then you're going into the Jay-Z and crushing. And then you're going into, I don't know if you did Tracy. I mean, you were going in, and it is just, I mean, you had the place flipped. And I'm about to go next. And Capone leans over to me and he goes, hey, man. He goes, if you don't want to go on now, if you want to go later, you know, because he's, you know, because you and Smokey just, and I go, no, you got to put me on now. Like I can't, especially when he said that. And and I went up and I ended up really doing really well. Like I remember it took me about maybe 30 seconds because you guys had killed, and you killed so hard that he literally said, you sure? Like, do you want to just wait?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he said that. Like, that's how you were hitting the room. And I was like, I have to. And I was like, because not only now am I going to have to follow somebody who is doing great stand-up, but then he hit him with the impressions, and it was almost like, I want to see where I'm at.
Right.
Because I'm not going to do impressions, really. I mean, so I went up there and I did it, and I had a really good set, and things went great. And then I felt good, and I went outside, and it was pouring. And these two women were out there going, oh my God, you were on stage. That was so funny, bud. And I went to my car, and my car got towed. My car got towed. And so I had these emotions of like, it was just like this, it was like, I'm scared. I'm nervous. I go up, I kill. It's great. I leave, my car's towed. And it was just one of those New York City nights, but you tore that place down to the point where it was memorable. And I know when I have those shows and people were like, hey man, I remember a guy that opens for me now, Kevin Ryan, funny comic from Philly. He said, he goes, one time you were killing so hard in the club and I had to follow it. And you always remember those. And you were one of those for me.
That's funny.
And the craziest thing is, after we talked and everything, and I found out your connection with Yonkers and Central Avenue and all that, it's such a small world. You know, you're a generation, you know, you're a little older, but it's kind of cool how you cross paths with people that you don't realize the similarities.
Right. And you know, I say, you know, is it a small world, or are we just giants among mere men? You know, I had to do it in Denzel's voice. We're giants among men.
What is your favorite impression that you do? So like, I know you probably enjoy more than others, right? What is that correct?
Yeah, you know what? I like doing Tracy Morgan. I like doing Tracy. And the reason why, because you know, with somebody like Tracy's bound to say anything, and it's uninhibited. It's uninhibited. You could go anywhere with Tracy Morgan's voice, and if you know him, you can go there because you know that he's you know, train of thought. Whatever comes, if I feel like there's a snowstorm outside, but I'm gonna talk about a snowstorm. But I also gotta talk about, you know, that chocolate starfish. You seen a woman's chocolate starfish, you know, but like Tracy's so absurd that, you know, it's just, he's fun as a character to play with on stage because I can pretty much go anywhere with it. Whereas Denzel is more measured. It's more measured. And you also, I don't necessarily want to reflect Denzel we hold him with such high reverence that we don't want to, you know, we don't have a lot of Black heroes that the world can agree on. Huh? You know, some people love MLK, some like Malcolm X. Everyone loves Denzel.
Well, that's so good, dude. Do you have do you have a weird one that people would think you wouldn't do?
Don Cheadle, because he's someone that no one, you know, people don't expect anyone to do Don, and he, you know, he's such an amazing presence on screen, but he's so low key. But then when you see Cheadle in a movie, he's such a reserved and smooth dude. But then you watch him flip the switch, man, whether Devil in the Blue Dress or Brooklyn's Finest, you like, yo, this dude could be menacing. And he's not a big dude. He's not like some dudes, like, you know, Will Smith, you know, he always sounds friendly and happy because he's rich and, you know, he has a lot of money. And
dude, that's crazy.
He got Jada. But Will is also probably 6'2" and brolic, right? He's bro. This dude is not a small dude. Don Cheadle, you know, is a small fella, and that's no disrespect Mr. Cheadle if he ever tunes into this podcast, because I'm such a fan. But certain people,
that's crazy.
I like switching back and forth. I just Jay-Z. Do you know Hugh Moore? You know Hugh Moore?
No.
He's out of LA. He's from New York, but he's been in LA. He was one of the first ones of us to, oh gosh, he was one of the first ones of us that went out to LA and started, man. He's like writes on everything.
Okay.
And we always hang out. And I don't know what it was, one afternoon we were chilling and I was just like, yo, Hugh. He was like, yo, what's up? I said, yo, you ever noticed that when you listen to Jay-Z's voice is right here, but if you tone it back a little bit, slow it down a little bit, he sounds exactly like LL Cool J, whereas LL is just real smooth and real melodic, real flow. But Jay is just a little heightened version, and he sounds a little more nervous. He's like a nervous LL Cool J, but then you got to slow it down a little bit. And then Hugh was like, yo, when it sounds like Vinny Barbarino too, I was like, yeah. And then I was like, it went from Jay-Z to LL Cool J, and then it was like, what, where, this does sound like John Travolta, Vinny Barbarino, So, but that also entertains me. Like it has to make me laugh.
Didn't you do, dude? Those are so good, Dean. Didn't you do 50 Cent being tired?
Yeah, 50 Cent, the thing with 50 Cent is he like, for one, he doesn't, 50, even though he's in New York, he's from New York, but he sounds like he's from the South. But he has a line that he says that he's like, I'm from New York, but I sound Southern, because he has a drawl to everything he says, and he sounds like he's dozing off mid-sentence, but nah, it's wide awake. It just, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking the set that I did at the Laugh Factory.
Yes.
That's like, you know what? The set I did, because I know it was probably Laugh Factory sort of would have been around 2004-ish, 2003, 2004-ish. And maybe a little later. But I had a set that there was a bit. It's actually, I did it on Showtime at the Apollo. It's on YouTube. It's my second Showtime at the Apollo. And it was a run where I said the setup of the joke was, rappers are taking all of the actors' roles now. I said, so much so that I just heard they're doing a Bad Boys 3, but they're not bringing back Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. They're going to have 50 Cent and Jay-Z. And so then it was like, yo, Jay bouncing back and forth between 50 Cent. And then I said, Chris Rock's going to be that director. Cut. What are y'all doing? And then Denzel's going to be the acting coach. And then it was the interaction of all four of them going back and forth. And what I noticed when I do that, because you're not giving people, and this I think honestly comes from, from doing the black rooms, the urban rooms, you got to hit people hard and quick, right? And so that pacing, me learning that pacing came from working black rooms, where it's like, all right, I gotta once I get them on that locomotive, I just wanted to keep picking up steam and picking up energy, because then people can't even, while they're laughing at the last thing you said, you've moved on to the next. So it's relentless. So if it, like in boxing, it's like at the end of Rocky 3, when Apollo Creed is like, go, because he has Clubber Lang on the ropes, and then he just starts just a flurry right?
In the
so that's what with the impressions. For me, I love doing my set, talking about my family and my wife and my children, and me existing in the world as a young black male with big hair that's 6'4". But then usually at the end of my set, I like to close out with this impression run where I just hit people in the head, tease them with a couple at first, and then just do like a over sort of quick pace set with impressions.
Man, and you actually have a really good memory, Dean, because I remember when I followed you at the Laugh Factory, I remember you saying when you did your 50 Cent, you go, I'm gonna take a nap in the back, I'm tired. You said that. I remember that. And so that was probably the bit going on. But you know, I gotta be honest, man. Like, and I'm not saying this to, I know comedians have a hard time taking compliments. We get uncomfortable, but you're truly.
I don't.
You're like, go ahead. No, but
please.
Truly, somebody comes in the room. He's talking.
Right.
No,
let the man finish.
You truly are one of the most talented, man, and not just in New York, man. You're one of the most talented in the world, and
thanks,
I'm so happy for you. Tiffany Haddish presents They Ready season 2. It is dropping at midnight tonight.
February 2nd, man. Yeah.
Yes, and I got to see. I know what you do, but I'm telling you guys, you tune in. You guys are going to absolutely. This is one of the most talented, and it's stand up with whatever he wants to talk about, and then the impressions. And it's just you're gonna love it. It's amazing. And I'm really happy because when you see somebody that works so hard, I guess we'll leave with this. Okay. But guys, again, I want to say that again, check it out. Even if this podcast will be out soon, but check it out. It's what did you do? 15, 20 minute set?
There's about a little over 20 minutes set. There's a little, the retrospective at the beginning, talking about, what we're going to do with Tiffany. And, shout out to Tiffany Haddish again, because, she reached back, which everyone's not doing, but I love the fact, the same way Billy Burr reached back and said, nah, you know what, I'm going to, Paul deserves a shot. I'm going to give him a shot. And he produced your special. Tiffany did the same thing with myself and Godfrey and Tony Woods and Barbara Carlisle, Kim Clark, and Aaron Jackson. Just a solid lineup. And I think sometimes people don't understand. It's not one show. It's 6 standalone episodes, but it's part of a series that she does called They Ready. Season 1 had like Ida Rodriguez and Shantae Wayans, April Macy, and season 2 is the 6 that I just mentioned. And what I love about being amongst such great comics, man, is everyone has such a different style of how they do things and how they perceive the world, and so you get 6 different amazing stand-up specials, and make sure you watch it. And then tell your friends and your family to watch it, add it to their watch list, and watch it again, because I want this to be at least in Netflix top 10. It's Black History Month, so I was like, I need to see my face in that Netflix top 10, so that Netflix says, we got to give him an hour. I'm already breathing it into existence. That the same way I breathed this into existence, doing the special with them. In 2019, I said, I'm shooting a special in 2020 with Netflix. We made that happen and manifested. So I want to make sure, I continue that, and also inspire some people the same way Eddie Murphy inspired us, man. To bring that photo.
Eddie Murphy did inspire, and I'll close with this. Do you remember? 2 questions.
Do you remember? I'm sorry.
How funny would it be if I just broke out into it? No. Do you remember it? And B, did you do stand-up on your SNL audition, or did you do impressions?
Oh, dude, I remember clear as day. I did characters.
I love how do you remember? It's like, do you remember the biggest moment of your life? Do you remember the biggest moment of your life? No.
You remember when you lost your virginity? No, it kind of clouds my mind. Nah, man, because I had booked Mad TV with the same set. So I had already, the book is being written as we speak. But I had auditioned for a sketch show for UPN and stunk. I was awful. And so instead of sulking, I said, how do I make this right? Took a Second City sketch class. And then when Mad TV had auditions, pretty much said what I did at Wendy Williams and at the Apollo and on my special. I said, what, let me write a scene. Let me write a funny scene. And so I did 3 characters
And then I said, because they say for most sketch shows, 3 characters, 3 impressions. And I was like, you know what? If I do more impressions, but I do them all in the 3 minutes allotted, they're not going to say, no, that's too much. We only wanted 3. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do, here's my impression of a Black Awards show that Chris Rock and Chris Tucker are hosting, and Jay-Z and Erykah Badu are doing a musical duet, and then Sam Jackson and Denzel Washington are presenting James Earl Jones with a Lifetime Achievement Award. And the reason I also set it up that way is because I noticed from watching like Jimmy Fallon and a couple of other people's audition tapes was you lose time in the audition by saying, oh guys, now here's my impression of Jerry Seinfeld doing whatever. And that you've just taken 6-7 seconds saying that. But I'm like, if I just say it all up the top, now I can just run. And again, going back to what I learned doing urban rooms, doing Black rooms, is like once I finish it, I can just go. So when I did it for Mad TV, I was only supposed to be in there 3-4 minutes. I was in there 10 minutes because she kept saying, who else do you do? And so I did, well, who do you, she was like, so she started throwing names. She's like, Jamie Foxx. I was like, well, you know, with Jamie, you know, Jamie's real smooth and he's relaxed and everything he says. Steve Harvey. I was like, well, you know, I'm not sure if I could do Steve Harvey, but I kind of, you know, and just kept throwing them at me. So I left the Mad TV auditions and wound up 2 weeks later getting a call saying I booked it. But the same night I had the Mad TV audition, I had a stand-up showcase in stand-up New York. And because I had gotten a call back, I was feeling great. I had a great set. It turned out the people from SNL were in the audience watching, and they wanted me to come and screen test for them. So eventually I had to say no to Mad TV. I helped Kevin Hart. Kev asked me to help him with his audition at the time, at which point I had to tell him, yo, I'm auditioning for SNL too. And wow. And I was the last person of the day. Like I was the last person to audition, do my screen test for SNL, Studio 8H and 30 Rock. And I've been sitting there since about 12:30 p.m. I didn't go on until 5:30. So I was on ice. And you know, as a performer, waiting for 5 hours is awful.
Waiting
right?
is the worst, man.
Waiting is the worst. And people always said, you know, you never know. They may not laugh and it's a long day, so don't expect laughter. But I remember Eddie said, you know what, when he was like, hey man, when I auditioned for Saturday Night Live, it was a wonderful experience because I saw these people who stressed. They were like, oh no, I gotta get it done. And he was like, you know, and I said, let me have fun. And so I kept saying to myself, just have fun. So when I got on 8H and I saw the monitor, and the monitor had a camera, the camera had a monitor on the top, and I could see myself. That's when I was like, yo, you know, I was a kid, dude. I was like, yo. And Lauren Michaels, he's like, Dean, thanks for being. I'm like, yo, thanks for having me, son. And because I had known that it killed at the Mad TV, I was like, I've now had a month that I noticed, like I like economize and trim the fat. And I did it, man. I did my audition, and I heard laughs from the darkness of the rafters. The writers that were there and producers that were there, and I left there relatively confident that I was like, you know what, if I don't get it, I did everything I could, and I was going to Montreal the next week, so I was like, I'm gonna win regardless.
Yep.
And you know, the rest is history, man. And it was a great ride. I didn't tell the people, make sure you follow me at I am Dean Edwards on all things social media. Make sure you follow my YouTube channel. We just started uploading my podcast that I do every Monday night on IG Live, Instagram Live, the Father Mugger Protocol Live podcast. The first 4 episodes that we posted just earlier today. I have Jim Gaffigan, Sebastian Maniscalco, Faison Love from Friday fame and Couples Retreat, and Tiffany Haddish. And we're at, I think, episode 42 or 43. So I do that every Monday night. So make sure you'll subscribe, support, share, like, all of that. I'm following Virzi's lead, man. You just said you're at episode 400 something. I was like, okay, I gotta step it up.
Well, you know what, man? I want everybody who listens to the Virzi Effect, the people, like loyal people that have listened to me, man. And I usually don't say this with a guest, but follow him, because I know all of the work. Dean's been in it even a little longer than me, but the work and the going out there and the doing everything that you can and the fight and the fact that this man is getting what he deserves. Everybody should follow him and watch his stuff. Watch what he does on the Netflix special, Tiffany Haddish, They Ready season 2. It's funny you said that about your SNL audition, because I talked to somebody else on SNL. He was on as Jeff Richards, and he said,
Jeff,
and you know
Jeff, hold on. Jeff was there the day he was the only person that was friendly to me that day.
Yeah,
there were about 13 people auditioning that day. He was the only person. He was the only other stand-up that was there that day, and stand-ups gravitate towards each other because we were loners. Yeah. Everybody else was sketch, and they were all clicked up and lovey-dovey with each other. We walked in, they were like, but Jeff was a stand-up dude, man. Good dude.
He said the same thing. He said, I know if I leave, at least I did what I wanted to do. That's how I wanted to do it. So, guys, check out Dean Edwards, all of his stuff, everything that he just mentioned. Thank you for being here. Congratulations to the Netflix special, Tiffany Haddish, season 2, They Ready. Dean, you're the best, man. I will talk to all you guys soon. We'll be back next week with another episode. Get the Virzi Effect where you get all your podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. Guys, I'll be at the Orlando Improv March 24th, the West Palm Beach Improv the 25th. I'll be in Tampa in May. I just got Salt Lake City added in June. You can go to paulvirzi.com for all of those dates. And check out Anything Better podcast with me and Bill Burr. You guys are the best. I'll talk to you guys soon.